All right, so today we're gonna make a new guitar tone using my new guitar. So I just picked up the ESP LTD Stephen Carpenter signature guitar. This comes with a single Fishman Fluence pickup. It is Stephen Carpenter's signature Fishman Fluence pickup, and we're going to be using the Neural DSP Archetype Gojira because it does extremely well with downtuned guitars, and this is in drop G currently. As a benefit of having one of these baritone guitars is switching to drop D, or drop G, I should say, is super easy. So it doesn't take huge strings or anything like that. So really nice to be able to play with it. So we've got Neural DSP Archetype Gojira on deck here. It's open up at the default setting. So let's go ahead and take a listen to that. So it sounds pretty good already, right? Like it sounds pretty killer, honestly. But we can do better. So let's go ahead and dive right in here. The first thing that I'm going to do is go ahead and open up the pedal section here. And the first thing I'll do is turn on this overdrive. Now, got some pretty standard settings here. Going to crank up the level to about here, and then I'm going to crank up the tone a bit as well. So with the tone right about there, and remember what it sounded like before. Now we're going to listen to it again. Sounds pretty killer, right? Like it actually sounds really great as it is, but we can do better. So next thing I'm going to do before I get to anything here on the amp section, I'm actually going to take it into the cab section. And it's as default set with the condenser 414, which sounds like this. And that's set as its second cab, right, or mic. Now if I switch this though to the 421 and I don't change anything else, check this out. So to me, that sounds great right out of the gates there. It sounds fantastic. I don't know what it is about the dynamic 421 paired with an SM57, but it does sound great. Now, if we go back to the head section here, a couple things that I like to change right off the bat is the gain. First off, it's up pretty high for my taste, especially since these are active pickups and they're very hot. So I'm going to go ahead and crank that gain down considerably. Now listen to how this sounds with that gain down. It's going to sound just as good in my opinion. So I do pick fairly hard. It's another reason why I like a little bit larger strings and a baritone guitar. But I do pick fairly hard. But even then, that gain still sounds really crunchy, really saturated, right? Even though I crank that way down. Now that's partly thanks to this pedal that we're using over here, but also thanks to this amp having a ton of gain. Now I tend to leave the lows where they're at, mid where it's at as well. The highs, I kind of crank down just a little bit because it's a little bit shrill. Maybe a little bit more. A little bit too much there, so I'll crank it back up slightly. All right, so now what I do is actually I bring down the master volume. I don't like having that cranked all the way up. It's saturating the tubes a little bit too much. So if we listen, bring that guy down, and we're going to notice a pretty sharp volume decrease too. We'll fix that with a level increase over here. A little bit more. Sounds pretty crazy already, right? Like, I know we've done quite a few moves here, but I think it sounds great as it is. The depth knob I tend to leave alone. I really don't like how it sounds if we go too far to the left or the right there, honestly. It sounds either like it has no body at all, or all of a sudden it has way too much low end and it's going to compete with the kick and with the bass. Now, as far as EQ goes, I don't mess around a ton with the EQ in the EQ section on this plugin itself. I usually use a separate EQ plugin if I'm going for something for a final mix. But if it's just for something like a video on TikTok or Instagram, what I'll do is I'll come in here and I'll pull down a little bit of the 65 hertz and then the 16 kilohertz, almost like a high and low pass filter inside of an EQ plugin, right? So now if we listen, it's going to be a very subtle change. Good old chug core there, right? So it sounds really good the way that that is. I don't tend to pull anything else out in this plugin. So that's pretty much it. We have the overdrive here with traditional overdrive settings. We've got on the amp head, gain came way down, low stayed the same, mid stayed the same. We messed with the highs a little bit so it wasn't so shrill and ice-picky. And we brought down the master to help it not oversaturate those tubes as much, which obviously you need to compensate by pushing the level back up, or else you're just gonna have a really quiet signal. And then as far as the cab goes, we just added that dynamic 421 in there as the second microphone, so it wasn't just the SM57 in there. Quick, simple, and a really killer tone. So here it is one more time. And that's it. Quick and easy tone. Took less than a few moments to make, and it was really all in one application. That's why I love these Neural DSP plugins, and I swear by them. So thank you guys for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you found it useful at all, leave me a comment, hit the like button, subscribe, you know, the generic stuff that everybody puts on here. Thanks again, guys.